Hello and welcome to the United Stands. Not the best of angles, that. Still struggling a little bit with the man flu, but it's quite bright for September in the UK. And lots to talk about anyway. Dele Alli to Manchester United, Dybala to Manchester United, Mesut Ozil to United, the United away fans who probably facing a little bit of trouble from Manchester United in relation to the Lukaku chant. So lots to discuss. And Robbie's not dead. Robbie is not dead. There's been a lot of rumours going around. In fact, he's having a good old dump about 200 metres in front of me, so he will be on at some point. But good morning to you all. Nice to be back doing the ramble. It's always weather permitted, and we had a busy summer, so we sort of knocked it on the head. But Robbie is definitely alive and kicking, and when he gets a little bit closer, I'll get him on for you. Happy birthday to Storyface, and morning to Xander. Who else have we got with us? Drop it a share, because if you're not a subscriber and you haven't clicked your notifications, that's how you'll be notified when I do stuff off the phone, especially the ramble. But you know what? It's not a bad day. It's not a bad day for the UK on a Sunday in late September. So let's start off anyway with some news, transfer news. You always get funny ones on a Sunday, so a couple of ones really that would be of interest to me. Dybala, obviously from Juventus, is a player we really like. He is apparently a potential player for Manchester United, £155 million. He has no release clause, and he is what is he? He's got no release clause, and he has a contract till 2022. I've always felt that he would definitely be a sort of player that goes to Barcelona. Be very welcome at Manchester United, of course. Can play pretty much the positions that Griezmann plays, if I'm totally honest. But that is probably where it all ends for me. I think Dybala will ultimately end up in a Barcelona or a Real Madrid shirt. And I think we'll end up with Griezmann. Nothing's set in stone though, so we'll have to wait and see about that one. Let's have a look. The Dele Alli one's quite interesting. Recently released his agent, and he's looking for a lot of people actually. Just before I go on that, Mad Mark says Dybala is better than Griezmann. And Robbie, that's not Robbie. There he is. Robbie! Don't think he's very happy that he's not been on much lately, but we'll get him back on. But no, I do like Dybala. I think everyone's right to talk about him in a positive light, of course. Of course, the problem you always get is a little bit of wind. Griezmann's better than Dybala, says Mois Anjum. Well, to be honest, I think at the moment that's not the case. Griezmann's proved himself more in world football than Dybala has. I think United will end up with Griezmann, so I'm not going to start jumping on a Dybala's better than Griezmann train, because I'd be very happy with Griezmann at United. I still do not know whether it will happen, but I think everything sort of points towards it, keeping the number 7 shirt free. Robbie does do what he wants, you're right. Am I worried that Mata and Herrera haven't signed new contracts, says Rizwan? I'm worried that Herrera's not playing in the midfield with Matic. I mean, I think very quickly, I don't want to dwell on it too much, because we did the fan call-in last night and there were some great phone calls about it, none more so than Nathan talking about Fellaini. I mean, it's normally me doing that, so I've sort of given him a bit of time off lately because he has been doing quite well. But what a call that was. If you didn't see the show from last night, go and watch Nathan's call about Fellaini, because I thought he was spot on. People are getting lost behind the effort levels of Fellaini again and not realising that the last 2 games we've actually lost the midfield for quite a significant period of time. And if we play somebody better, I don't think Matic and Fellaini, well, Matic won't cope with Fellaini, and I think Herrera is such the better option to have, or at least go with a midfield 3. I don't like Matic and Fellaini as a midfield 2, and I think it leaves us really exposed. Which brings us perfectly on to Dele Alli. So Dele Alli has changed his agent, and he's been courted by a lot of other agents, including Mini Raiola and George Mendes, both with very good connections to Manchester United. Raiola because he always sells us something every summer, and Mendes because it's Mourinho's agent as well. Dele Alli in a midfield with Pogba and Matic would be pretty exciting. I think Dele Alli this season could have a fantastic season, and really, I predicted it in the summer. I think Dele Alli is the player that can be England's star. I know people are talking about Rashford, but I think he is, if he has a good season for Spurs especially in the Champions League, then he can sort of put himself in the shop window after the World Cup next year as England's big star. And I'd love him at Manchester United. I mean, he got 2 assists yesterday, I think, didn't he? I think he's a fantastic talent, and I'd love him at Manchester United. As I said, I think he'd be perfect for us, especially with the defensive abilities of Matic, and then the strength of someone like a Pogba alongside him. Obviously, he's a little bit more attacking, so I would have Dele Alli in the Mkhitaryan position. I think he'd be perfect for Mourinho as well, because he's got a bit of height on him, but he's also got a lot of tenacity about him. He's got a lot of fight in him, and I think if you put him in that Mkhitaryan position, it doesn't disrupt Pogba and Matic. I think that would be the perfect midfield 3 for Manchester United. I don't know what you think, but Pogba, Matic, Dele Alli would be perfect. He'd cost a bit of money. Lee Madden says it's never going to happen. I tell you what, Lee, I think it's more likely than Dybala, for the simple reason Dele Alli's going to want to leave Spurs at some point. A lot of players are going to want to leave Spurs at some point. They can't keep hold of these players on a promise of a new stadium and potentially winning the title in a few years' time. They need to do better than that. And Dele Alli, he went to Spurs. He was a Liverpool fan apparently, so it's not like he's got loyalty to Spurs. I think that midfield 3 of Alli, Pogba and Matic would be absolutely devastating. Plus, you get one of the best midfield talents in world football. You get a young player, and you get a Premier League proven player as well. Spurs would want 200 million. Well, that's the modern market. I mean, 200 million is ridiculous, but the amount of money that's going to come into football because of the latest contracts is ridiculous. There he is, running off. Little rule unto himself. This is why I don't have him on, because he's such a pain to get on. What else do I want to talk about? Mesut Ozil linked to United again. I'm not a massive Mesut Ozil fan. He gets a lot of assists, obviously, but he never turns up against big clubs. Mourinho loves him. He loves Mourinho. He's out of contract in the summer, and he would like to come to United, apparently, Mesut Ozil. Well, you know what? I've never been impressed by Mesut Ozil in an Arsenal shirt, especially against United, and maybe Mourinho could get the best out of him. But Ozil, I just don't see Ozil as really being that much better than Mkhitaryan or Mata. And even if he is better, he's the same sort of player. I would rather we went for a Dele Alli than him. So I'm not going to dwell on the Mesut Ozil news much, because I don't really want him. What I want to talk about next is the Romelu Lukaku thing. So obviously the chant has been deemed racist, and I have had my say on it. And personally, I don't think it is offensive. I can understand why people find it offensive, but that's the world we live in. Apparently the club and the player have told the fans not to sing it. I did not detect that from the club or the player. What I saw was the club saying that any offensive behaviour will be dealt with, and we actually commented it on Twitter, didn't we? I saw it on Friday from the United stand saying, does that mean fans can sing the Lukaku chant or not? It seemed to be they were referring to that, but they didn't do it directly. Then Lukaku sort of made a comment about it saying, I know it was meant in a nice way, but it's probably best that it's not sung. Then you get comments saying that from the club, I think again last night, saying we've specifically told fans not to say it, and so has the player. I think that was a bit wishy-washy from the club and the player last week. I mean, I'm not criticising them, but they should have come out and said, it's offensive, please don't sing it. They didn't do that. It was a bit sort of sit on the fence thing. So United fans away from home have obviously gone and sung it. That's what you get with fans on the terraces anyway. And now they're potentially going to get CCTV and get in trouble. As I said last night, this is massive. These are fans that follow the club, not just around the country, all around the world, and they are fantastic, our away support. And you're going to start picking them out and saying what you've done is wrong, singing that song. What's the punishment going to be? Take tickets off them? And it's very, very. I mean, breach 69, United embarrassment for the way they're dealing with the chant. Nothing but a banter song. I don't totally agree with that breach, but I think what they should do, instead of coming down hard on the fans now, is just make another statement and say, maybe we weren't clear on Friday. If any United fan sings the Lukaku chant anymore, we will be looking at CCTV, and you will have your season tickets or whatever removed. Then if fans choose to do it because for whatever reason, 1, it's banter, 2, they feel they've got a right to sing what they like, then at least they do it knowing what the facts are. I just feel it was a little bit grey area. The fans have done it yesterday. It's like a red rag to a bull, isn't it? And they've done it banter. And look, compliment, banter, whatever. Unfortunately, the world we live in, some people have taken it offensively, and as I said, there's a great joke in The Office season 2 about it, and he gets pulled into the office, David Brent, and he says exactly the same. How can it be racist? If anything, it's a compliment. But the reality is, if somebody finds it offensive, then it has to stop. I don't find it offensive. I'm sure you're not as well. But I don't like the fact that they're asking for CCTV from Southampton. What are they going to do with these fans? I think the warning was a little bit grey area, and they need to improve on that area now, and just say, look, any more, you're going to be in trouble. Maybe they are going to give them all a warning, but I do think it was a little bit overreaction to start getting CCTV. And as I said, these fans are hardcore United fans who follow them around the country, and I don't think banning them is a good idea. It just creates some further bad relations between fan and the club. CCTV, says Jordan Thompson. Well, it's them cameras that they have in shopping centres and football clubs that will be covering the crowd. So whoever was singing that Lukaku chant, there's a pretty good chance that they'll have a few of them on CCTV singing it. Lip reading. It's the old John Terry gate again, isn't it? But there we go. So Dybala and Alli, interesting. Dele Alli to United would be fantastic. Mesut Ozil, no thanks, and Lukaku chant. I think the club just need to say no more, and then, yeah, we can disagree with it, but let's get it on. Donal, that would be very funny. I'm sure he was one of them, to be fair. The Mourinho touchline ban as well, I totally agree with what everyone's saying about that. I'm on a ramble, that's why I'm not in the studio. We're on a ramble, and I've lost Robbie and the kids. That's why I'm stood on this bridge. Stood on a nice bridge, actually. Should have shown you it. Yeah, if Mourinho ends up with a touchline ban, which I wouldn't be surprised if he does, the ridiculous fact of it is that you've got Klopp and Conte constantly acting like clowns on the touchline, and it's applauded. And then you've got Mourinho, who just encroaches on the pitch slightly and gets sent to the stands. But sit down, take the L, the FA, because the reality is United are back, and that's why we're being picked on again. I've seen it happen for years. Not even going to worry about it. Theon Curtin says Matic should be rested for Carrick against Moscow. Yeah, we've got that on Wednesday night. I'm looking forward to that away in Moscow, back in the Champions League. You can't fault it. You can't fault it. Trying to get some Robbie on, but Robbie! It's being a pain. Anyway, drop us a like on the video, because we will try and do more Robbie rambles, even though Robbie's hardly been in it. We will try and do a few more, because I know people tend to like them. Well, they used to. So if you do like them, drop a like. It's a spot out of the. Come here. It's a spot out of the studio, which is always good to get a little bit of exercise. And there's always stuff to talk about on a Sunday morning, but it is definitely weather permitting. I mean, it's been a very wet last few weeks, and then the summer window was busy. Robbie hates transfer window. He goes off on a little bit of like the littlest hobo. He's just off for a few weeks, months, touring Europe and finding himself. But he comes back in September, so we'll start doing some of these rambles. I enjoy them. Let's take a few questions then. Wonderful to have the rambles back, says Anaban. Good to be back. What will happen to Mkhitaryan, and what's your views on Morata? I'm happy to answer that. What will happen with Mkhitaryan is that I'm still a bit concerned about Mkhitaryan. Drifts in and out of games, which is why I was saying Dele Alli would be perfect in that position, because he's got some physicality and he gets involved. I think Mkhitaryan gets his head down, a good dribbler, but he doesn't see the passes enough. He's infuriating a bit at the moment, Mkhitaryan. Capable of brilliance, but in fact, I don't know whether anyone watched Match of the Day last night, but it was a weird one, because the commentator Jonathan Pearce on the highlights, and then both Keown and Murphy, who are complete plonkers. That was really weird if you watch Match of the Day, because Jonathan Pearce was like waxing lyrical about Mkhitaryan, and then Danny Murphy and Keown were doing it about Rashford and Mkhitaryan, and I was like, it's nice to be getting a bit of positivity. But it just shows they've got no idea, because actually Rashford was very poor yesterday, as was Mkhitaryan. So even when they give us some positivity, they've clearly not watched the game, because they're picking out the wrong sort of players. But anyway, back to Morata. Whoa. He's a top striker. He's an absolutely top striker, Morata. I wanted to sign him in the summer ahead of Lukaku. I still get a lot of stick now because people say, how you wanted Morata over Lukaku, look at you, sit down and take the L. What I've said is I am not engaging in Lukaku versus Morata nonsense. They're both very good strikers. I wouldn't swap Lukaku for Morata now. I wouldn't. If you'd asked me back in June, I was adamantly wanting Morata over Lukaku, and I don't think it would have worked out badly for United anyway. I think Morata would have been fantastic at United. But what about Lukaku that Morata doesn't have is just that beast mode, that ability to handle 2 or 3 centre-backs on his own physically and force space for the number 10. I don't think Mkhitaryan's taken advantage of that space enough at the moment, and he needs to step up to the plate. So I wouldn't swap Lukaku for Morata, but I'm not going to be a hypocrite and change my stance. I really like Morata. I think he's a top striker. There was people question marking, oh, he's a bench boy for Madrid. Clearly hadn't followed his career. He's done well for Spain. He did very well in Italy, where the defences are very good, and he's doing very well for Chelsea. He's a very good striker. That's all I can say. I'm not going to say anything bad about Morata. I never thought he was going to flop. Lacazette, on the other hand, I think he'll score a few goals, but he's nothing better than a French Jermaine Defoe or a Darren Bent. I don't rate Lacazette that much. Morata played for top clubs, good striker. He'll do very well. To be honest, it's Chelsea, City or United for this title already for me. Chelsea play City next week, massive game. Obviously we play before at 3 o'clock against Crystal Palace, so we'll do the watch along for that, and I think I'll probably do a watch along on That's Football for the City-Chelsea game straight after it, because we'll all be watching it. Who's my money on? I'd love a draw. It'd be brilliant for us, but I'd love a draw. Do you like Luke Shaw, says Adam. Look, I like Luke Shaw. I think he's the answer, but I think Ashley Young's doing very well out on that side. Another assist yesterday. I'd rather have Ashley Young playing on the right because you get that natural cross, but he put a good cross in yesterday, and I do like Ashley Young. But Luke Shaw, I'm not worried about Luke Shaw at the moment. It's about fitness for him. He's got to stay fit for a number of weeks, and if he does that, fantastic. Bit of Robbie walking it in there. He's getting tired now. Ignorant. When Rom goes beast mode, centre-backs can do nothing, says Fionn. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Remember to drop a like, otherwise, you know, if Robbie doesn't get 1,000 likes, he won't do it again. It's as simple as that. He's got an ego bigger than John Terry, and I'll tell you what, he gets about more than John Terry as well. I don't know how many kids this lad's got, but yeah, if you want a bit more of Robbie, he comes into his own on the run up to Christmas as well. If anyone can remember the one we did last year in the woods with the Quality Street, that sounds sordid. It wasn't. I was just walking through the woods with Robbie eating Quality Street a week before Christmas. Stanley, sit down. What's the news, says Ben O'Hare. Watch it back. Watch it back. I'm not going to recap. Here he comes, look. It looks like he's running towards me. He's just running past. Just taking the L constantly off this dog. He is not interested in me at all. I'm going to shave tonight. Yeah, I've got work tomorrow, so I just let it go sometimes. And I've not been feeling that well, so I will let it go. Anyway, talking of tonight, 8 o'clock tonight will be Sunday Night Live, back in the studio. We've got Ross and a new guest on tonight, which I think you're going to really enjoy. Some things planned on the United stand over the next sort of week before the international break, so stay involved. Fantastic community. I love the way we do this sort of thing, just different things, and sort of brings a sort of behind the studio sort of community to the channel, which I know a lot of you like, and you know, I'm more than happy to do it. So thanks everyone for watching. Speak to you tonight at 8 o'clock. Have a good Sunday. If you're in the UK, it looks like being a nice one. You always get a few weird days in the autumn that are really hot, and you think, why didn't we get this in the summer? So it's a nice day today. We'll be back at 8 o'clock. Really looking forward to it. Leave some comments in the comments if there's specific topics you want us to discuss. Got a few sort of ideas, but yeah, really enjoyed that. The Ramble's back for the autumn running, and I'll speak to you all soon. Have a good day.